Hi, I'm Seamless, and this is me reviewing a Keystep Pro made by Arturia. This video is brought to you by Zounds, an online music retailer that's got just about whatever you could imagine or think to need about producing, recording, or playing music. Everything. Recording equipment, playing instrument equipment, all the way up to orchestra stuff. They generally have all the things, including stuff like keyboard controllers and drum machines and synthesizers, all of that stuff. They graciously have been sending me things so that I can do literally whatever I want with them. I have decided to do gear reviews because that's something I've always wanted to do. And, but that's the deal. I have not been paid for this, but I also did not pay for this, but I'm also not keeping it. I'm sending it back. Being real specific about this deal because I'm not 100% sure if this constitutes paid promotion or not. I don't think it does, but neat stuff, huh? Anyway, this thing is called the Keystep Pro, and this is the first time in my life I've ever seen the word Pro used in a product name that I 100% endorse its definition and definitive use. This is let me show you something. This is a regular Keystep. This is mine. I actually did buy this because I wanted it. I got it because it has pretty decent direct CV connectivity, and along with regular keyboard MIDI stuff. Like it's extremely fully fleshed out, a ridiculously competent piece of gear. It's mainly for ARPs, and like it's for sequencing too, but like it's mostly a perk. Like it's mostly just that you can do ARPs and you can play hardware with it. And it's small, and it's compact, and like robust and cool. And then this is the ludicrously pro version of that, the one that has 4 different tracks, a specialized drum track, individual kinds of ARPs and sequence tracks for each one. And like all the ludicrously broken, like this is just one voice of CV out. This is 4, and it can be assigned any combination you can think of across the different voices. In this case, I made it all on one deal, but I like to make this groove. And look at that. So in drum sequencer mode, like when I go to notes deal and like play something that has notes. Like this dude, like these are all chords, and they like I overdubbed them by playing them one by one. And then by the way, I have a making of the setup for this video. If you want to see me plugging in all this stuff and what it takes to do that, I have all video just for that. But the way that this has every kind of like sequencing and arpeggiating and a key and modulation and playback and syncing and connectivity, like this is one of the best, most actually professional pieces of hardware I've ever laid my hands on, up to and including the same company's Matrix Brute, and I'm gonna get a Poly Brute. You know I'm gonna play one of those. Point is though, the point I'm making is that like this thing earns calling itself pro, which is also to say, my review in a nutshell is if you have any inclination towards hardware performance and control through a controller like this at all, this is the thing you want. This is the thing you want. It just is. And but we're gonna go, I'm still gonna like talk about why it's cool. Goodbye, Keystep. Hello, Keystep Pro. Okay, so the funky way, actually pretty normal. It has 4 tracks, 2 MIDI different. I called them different in the previous video, the behind the scenes. They're not different. They're actually just the same output twice. It's just MIDI out twice. And that's actually still just fine, because the way MIDI generally works is that it blasts out all the same information at anything that's connected to it. And then you tell the things that are being connected to it which one of them they are, so that they react to the correct part of the blast. And that's why you just daisy chain as many things as you want usually. That's why only one port is generally fine for these kinds of things. But it's also better to have just 2, because sometimes not everything has a through. And that being able to just spam connectivity is great. So that just being just so spoiled for that with this is kind of intense. But I brought up this track and I wanted to point it out because one of the things that this drum channel can do is that when you turn it to drum mode, this track turns every one of these notes that will trigger the drums. I have the connected to a drum boot up there. Is an individual track that has its own pattern of notes. On top of that, though, it can also have its own pattern length. If you hit shift, which brings available all the alternative actions that exist on the thing, which like is a pretty standard when it hardware button deal, but like the things that you're able to do with just the buttons and just the alt commands, you barely ever need to go into the main menu. Once you set it up to be basically the things you want, which you can see me do in the video I mentioned, then like it's just the smoothest of sailing. So one of the things that I have connected is this Micro Freak, and it's going to get its own review, which is why I'm not going to do too much with it at the mo. But I am going to use, I'll just write up a kind of sequence for this, the Miss Matrix root I have kind of on the side here. This will show you how it works. So you have your typical control of how you input your octave just for playing. And if I want to just like hit record and hit go, I pretty well can. But I also can stick down notes and get MIDI in there. So I already know that the pattern is kind of doing a deal. So I'm just going to put a thing in and like, it doesn't have what it needs to be on. And I'm not on overdub mode. If I was in overdub mode, it would actually keep, like, it's saying that it's playing all these notes. But the Matrix synth is not set up in paraphonic mode right now, so that means that it won't actually do that if I did that. So, mono voice it is. And I believe the progression was E. Aha, you see what I did there? So it's you can set the default of how long the pattern is by hitting last step and then hitting the last step in the pattern. And if you hit these guys, it moves the last step to be in the last group of 16 steps so that you can have a 64-step length pattern. And this guy is that long, and I'm basically just going to put his root notes in here. So that was, which was pretty basic. I didn't really like try super hard to. So E, or actually still G again, yeah. And then what? Down to D again. Yep. Oops. You know something? Let's be syncopated and cool. And then it was the 2, which is fun. And you're also going to be syncopated because I'm pretty sure I didn't do that with the chords. Let's find out. You and me both. I need to put the headphones on. Oh, one of them was too high. So there's a number of ways I could handle the fact that that note doesn't last very long. I could either increase the gate length per note here, which you do by grabbing the parameter, grabbing the note, and just like wee with it. Or I can do that in the Matrix synth and actually just increase things like its various like envelopes and whatnot. I'm just gonna do that. And now it sounds like this. I engaged a follow up there by hitting the shift last note button, and that meant that it just changed the window to keep up with where the actual sequence was. And I also mapped the mod wheel over here to be from this channel. Well, like I did that in the actual Matrix root. I mapped in there the mod wheel because it has an actual mod wheel, and that's what this is controlling when it gets sending out that particular MIDI information to a thing that has it. I am controlling the main filter's position, and that's how I'm able to make this happen, which is another reason why this thing is a great like performability tool. A, that it has that as a capability, but B, you could make that you could record this. You could record this motion. I don't need to do it if I don't want to. And that's really the coolest thing about Arturia's mission is that they seem not to force you to do things that other hardware tends to do. It tends to force you into a real kind of corralled sort of do this because this is the way kind of way. And this really does not. It lets you, it really open-end a lot of stuff. And that's a kind of a thing I dig about it. All the menu stuff is controlled by accessing it through this utility menu, and it has all the stuff you need to have in here. Look, this is where you set which MIDI channel goes into what thing, how are you syncing it? Is it internally synced? Is it externally synced through USB from like $1 or something, which you can also do. And that's how you sync up larger and more things. Is it syncing through CV? What is being sent out of the CV? Is the CV sending velocity information, or is it sending this guy? Because you can pick which. Like all that stuff is set in there, and honestly, it's only for the really most niche stuff that you ever need to go into that menu. Like I have barely done anything about pattern switching. Up here, you could tell it which pattern you want to be up here, and you can set up a pattern chain where you can set a different, like more than one pattern could be looped through essentially per track, and it doesn't have to be the same patterns in the same tracks. And you could definitely just set it and go and have a logic of an uneven repetition through things like the poly counted sequence length, because that's a true thing also per track and pattern, is that they don't all have to be the same length. And that's not just a drum track thing. That's an everything thing. So that the drum track does it for all the tracks too, like, which makes it great. And that's another, like, just so many good things to say about this freaking thing. Like, honestly, it doesn't need to be much more of a video, just other than to tell you that this thing is great. And if I'm sure I might find some comparable hardware in the future, but for the time being, this literally is the first thing I've ever seen that earned being called Pro in its name. And if that's ever your intention, this thing is a thing for you. Like I said, everything else. Oh yeah, one thing I definitely got to control is like this shows up. This is the control automation like track. So this actually just kind of felt like it was part of the regular menu, but it's not. When you hit this, you are controlling CCs now through whatever track you're on. And the thing is, though, is that these knobs all get set individually into the menu, what CC they are, what MIDI channel they come out, and what they control. And it is still only one thing of these, and globally, I'm pretty sure. And then you get the target automation change per track by having it be part of the control change here. And then when you put down bits, it's actually about which position are you changing these things. And now they don't represent these anymore. They represent literally 5 just CC knobs. And then you get to control any extra shit that has CC. Didn't mean to swear there, my bad. Anything that has CC control and the other things that are connected through the MIDI control. And for something like the Matrix Brute, that's super cool because it has mod wheels, or rather it has the mod wheel, which is great, which you can use to control too, but that's already true. But it also has straight up like macro knobs, 4 of them. And you can set those CCs to be the ones that they are here. And then if you do that, that means that you can control those incredible macros like from here. And that's also true for something like the Micro Freak, which on top of being awesome in itself, it also, like, its primary core things are CC mapped. So if you set these, like, if there's like the main kind of type thing, you could basically preset change. And I'm pretty sure you could preset change anyway, but like that, this way you don't even really need to literally preset change. You could actually just change the thing. And then this is where you could actually sequence it as an option, as an event. That's how you do that. You hit control, go to track, and then there you are, like, or rather tracking control. Yeah. So that's like that. I knew I was missing something big about this, about how it worked. Like, that's another thing. And another big reason why it's pro as hell, because like most things would normally just expect you to have to live with that, like within a track kind of architecture. And this is kind of still true, but it's actually like, it's a lot farther than I would even expect something like this to have, like capability wise. Most sequencing is mostly just about having the input that's like this, holding the point, moving the whatever it is, and then that's the value you get. But because this lane lets you change what these are, you're able to plan with the things that have the correct kind of control what it is that they do. And when you see the Micro Freak review, you'll see what I mean, because I'll show you like those main buttons and knobs that control every single thing about it that have CC values. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, this has been the Keystep Pro. It's super cool. Thanks to the Sounds for letting me have it for kind of a long time, and I really got used to it, got my hands on it, and I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about this, please let me know. If there's any gear that you wanted me to review or look at, head on over to the Sounds website and see if you can find it there, because if it is, it can get added to a list. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I need to get a new spiel for when I do these. I'll get one. It'll happen. And as usual, have a nice day. Always going to say that, though, because as always, you should have a nice day.